We'll see how it goes. Oh, okay. So we're live now, I
Yeah.
guess. Well. Yeah. Welcome to the show, my friend. It's good to have you. For those who don't know you, do you want to give like a slight introduction of yourself, what you do? Because I know you, but the people may not know. So, do you want to tell them about yourself?
Yeah. Okay. So my name is Amayo Duke, and I run a handmade accessories brand called Southern Panther, which I started in 2015. And yeah, that's why that's what I'm here for.
Nice. Just for background, guys, me and Amayo are actually Instagram friends. We met on IG. I slid in her DMs, so I'll take credit for that. When I
Hmm.
was doing research for the podcast and I was looking for people to talk to and seeing like if this platform was really something that was needed out there and if these conversations were things that people were interested in seeing, Amayo was one of the people that I reached out to, and I was very, very skeptical because these are strangers, right? That you don't know. But she was so warm and so hospitable. When our first conversation, it was like we've known each other for such a long time. So I really admire you, Amayo, and I admire what you do with your brand and how far you've come and just how open you are and everything about you. So we can just
Thank
dive
you.
into
Wow, how complimentary. Thank you.
yes, ma'am. Cause I don't know, on the social media streets, it's harder to, you know, see people who first of all are responsive, but to see
Hmm.
someone who's as responsive as you are and who's like, you know what, this is a platform that I would love to not only like participate in but also support. That's really, really encouraging to see.
Yeah. No, it's like it's totally selfish on my part, anyways, because I am interested in your content. So yes, of course, like I also want to hear how other people are doing because it's really like I mean, I'm going to tell you a story about that later on, but like I don't have like business friends I talk to, or lots of my friends are in like a totally different field. So I'm kind of struggling on my own. So it's like I've always wanted to hear, especially like it's so specific. Like the African market is not the same as all other markets. So I've always wanted to hear how people are struggling, especially in Nigeria. There's just so many things. So like I definitely am going to be pushing you to continue this podcast. Yeah, I have a special investment. So
Yes, I love it. But for the audience to get a little bit more about your story, where you started, how did fashion start for you? Like, where did that interest come from? Was it from your parents? Was it from watching TV? Was it just like
this is so
internal?
yeah, this is so interesting because I literally just I told you off air that I've been applying to business school. Yeah, so I had to
Mhm.
write a personal statement, and of course every time you write a personal statement you have to think about these things. So yeah, I always say, and I guess it's really true, my parents actually had a big role. Like it wasn't a you should do fashion, like they never pushed me, but I think it's just the way I grew up because my mom is a fashion designer. She's always made clothes for me. I remember like having special Sunday dresses made for but like she made them for me and my siblings. So I've always had fashion. And I mean, I'm also a filmmaker. That's actually why I went to university to study. So my parents are also theater art graduates.
Mhm.
We had a TV studio back home. We used to broadcast from our house. We had a video rental store. So it's like it's
Wow.
always exactly. I've always had the two.
Wow. In a Nigerian home, you were way
I
ahead of your
know
time.
it's really strange now that I think about it. Like for me, growing up, it was just normal. But yeah, my parents used to broadcast. We had a proper TV studio set up, and then we used to do like VHS rentals. So I've always sort of grown up with film and fashion together in my house. So when I came back from my studies in the UK and I was back in Nigeria and I was doing NYSC and I was just like, well, what am I like? What can I do? What am I going to do? And I just made like chokers were back in 2015, right? That's when I started the brand. So everybody was wearing chokers like 2014, 2015. So I made a set of chokers and that's literally how the business started. I had no plan. A friend of mine saw the chokers and she was like, oh, you should sell these on Instagram. And that's so like
That's
it's never fashion is never anything I have to think about. Like if it comes to fashion, I can like I just jump in because I'm so used to I literally grew up with it. I have no other reference in life. Like I literally grew up with fashion, so I never question it at all. So yeah.
wow. That's so cool because honestly, your parents are the coolest Nigerian parents ever. Like they had a in-home theater, you said, and they
Yeah.
themselves studied theater. Like
Yeah.
that's like light years ahead of where a lot of Nigerian parents are as far as letting their children explore creative industries as far
Yeah.
as a career, because a lot of people want you to do things that are more, I guess, predictable. So
Yeah,
that's
more stable, right? I'm definitely lucky in that aspect because my parents definitely have a problem with me studying filmmaking, even as I'm running a business, my parents are really supportive. So like clearly I am in a very small privileged class because I know that like the average, like even my friends that I went to uni with were like, I don't understand, you're studying filmmaking. Like I was just like, yeah. Yeah, my parents are
yeah.
just, yeah. So I'm definitely lucky in that sense. I know a lot of people have to like fight to
Mhm.
even, start a fashion business. I'm not saying go to school for fashion. I mean literally to just even do anything fashion on this. I know a lot of people have to fight against their parents for that. So yeah.
Yeah, you and I have both enjoyed that privilege because for me too, my parents have always been supportive. They bought me my first sewing machine, so
Mhm.
they've always encouraged me. I mean, they encouraged me to do accounting, which is my day job, but they've always told me, like, don't let the fire of fashion, don't let it die out. Like, we see a gift in you, we see a talent in you. So it's always good to have that, like, approval from your parents because it really matters. You want them to be proud of you, you want them to, like,
Yeah.
believe in what you're doing and all of that stuff. That's awesome. So you started the choker business in 2015. And
Hmm.
when you started, like, how did it go? What did you learn along the way? So you've been in business for
Is
over
we
five
had our
years.
seventh anniversary, yeah, in March. So it's been
Yeah,
7 years. I cannot believe I've been running it for 7 years. Especially
that
the last
flies,
two
you know?
years. The last 2 years feel like a blur, especially. But yes, we've been
Yeah,
around.
because of the
Um,
pandemic, right?
Yeah. Okay, so the business I'm actually based in Calabar, right, Cross River State, and there are two. Well, there's a big university here, University of Calabar, and then there's like Tech, which is like a polytechnic, and so I have like I guess my friend who encouraged me to start the business, right, with the chokers, she was in uni, so she wore the chokers to campus. People asked, so the business grew pretty quickly, and like we had like a really good price point. I would say the chokers were not that expensive, right? I think I was
Mhm.
selling them for 1,000 naira at the time, like because like I said, I just started the business. What did I know about pricing? So I was like, sort of pricing them at 1,000 naira. So I sort of I grew quickly in that sense because there were university students and they were buying and buying. And so I got quote unquote early success. And so
Mhm.
I then started to create more things because I was like, oh, well, I can't abandon this thing now because it's grown beyond just chokers. So yeah, I quickly released like a couple of other collections. I think Christmas was coming around and Christmas is really big here. We have a carnival and everything. So I remember releasing the carnival collection, which is like very colorful,
Mhm.
So yeah, I would say I would say that in the beginning for sure the business did pick up quite quickly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Not like thousands and thousands of followers or anything, but like it did, yeah. There was a bit of an increase, yeah, quite
Yeah.
quickly.
And from years that you've been in business, what are some of the problems that you faced, like challenges some that you've overcome and some that maybe you're still currently going through that you think that the audience will be able to relate to as far as doing business in Nigeria in this industry?
Um, Definitely. Okay, so it has quite a few facets. The
Mhm.
first one is I really struggle to even know how to price my work, and it is
Mhm.
ridiculous how many people are in this boat. Like I will look at people's things and I know they're not pricing them right. So like I struggle to price, and obviously you go online because I didn't really have anyone mentoring me or anything. So you go online and you try to figure out formulas. But the truth is, you also have to consider the market and the income of the people you're trying to sell to. So that's something I struggle with still. So there's some things that I will price and I'll just be like, well, nobody's going to buy that. Then I also just struggled with logistics initially because I sort of was selling only in town, and then I started getting inquiries from out of the state, and I was just like, okay, well, I need to figure out how to be able to deliver to XXX people here and there. But
Mhm.
that's something I actually solved pretty quickly because, believe it or not, I always say this to people: NIPOST, Nigerian Postal Service,
Does it
NIPOST,
really
it
work?
actually works. I always say
I've heard
everyone
the
is
opposite.
always shocked.
I've
Everyone is
heard the
always shocked.
opposite.
It worked really well for me, and it didn't just work well for me. It worked well for me when I was selling on Etsy and I was
Mhm.
delivering to places like Australia, France, the UK, I use Post. I did not use the courier service. I didn't even use the courier leg of Post. I used slow mail, like Post,
Wow.
you know. So
And the
yeah,
timeline was reasonable and they
yeah,
gave
it
you
was. It
delivery.
was. I mean, obviously, when you're selling to people outside of the continent, they naturally know they're going to wait a bit longer, anyways. Like you have to be very clear about that because it's not going to be a next day delivery thing. It's going to be more like 2 to 3 weeks. You usually everything usually arrived within 2 weeks, sometimes even faster. But like I would give as much of a window so that people were like they had good expectations and not like weren't upset when things didn't come within a time frame. But
Mm,
yeah, and then obviously just reaching the market, that's another thing because like I said, Nigerians don't have a lot of money to work with. The
mhm.
currency is getting worse, the country is getting, so like you sort of struggle with the fact that what you're making is not essential. Like I really like I run an
Ooh.
accessories brand,
Mhm,
so I know that people don't need this bag to survive, right? But someone who
mhm,
is in fashion but they're doing clothing,
mhm.
right, it's in a slightly different position because as much as people don't need the clothes to survive, they still need clothes. So why not be fashionable? I want, but like a bag, earrings, like a bag charm, not they're not essentially in the same way. So I also struggle with relevance and like whether or not it makes sense for me to still be running a business, when people actually don't have lot of money to work with, allegedly. I say allegedly because
Yeah.
people are always like, no, you're just in the wrong market. And I'm just like, this, I don't really think this market exists, right? Because the brand, we got into GT Fashion Weekend,
Mhm,
so we went to Lagos for a weekend and we did that and it was good. We definitely made more sales than I would ever have done if it was a pop-up or an exhibition over here in Calabar. But I I definitely noticed that these Lagos people that magically have all the money, how people are
mhm.
always like, yeah, Lagos, these Lagos people were still buying the same things Calabar people were buying. Like the things I
Mhm.
sold the most of were the cheapest things. It was still the same. So I'm just like, actually, there's something here. Like yeah, we need to reassess this market that everyone thinks is available. So yeah, I'm struggling. I struggle with relevance to my audience and like just
Mhm.
hitting that sweet spot where you're selling something that people need, as opposed
Need.
to something that because when it comes to wants, lots of people like what I'm doing, but they can't afford it. So like it's
Mhm.
struggling to hit the fact that like the target market where they need what you're selling. So those
Yeah.
are like the three main things I guess that I've been struggling with. My market, pricing, and logistics. But logistics, I think is like I think that's like Nipos definitely hasn't failed me yet.
Wow. Okay, so I'm taking notes of what you said, and
Yeah, no, I just spoke
honestly,
a lot.
you're good. You're good. And so, two things really stuck out to me. The first is the night post, because I feel like this is a really good resource for people who are listening,
Mm,
because I've only heard negative things about night post, and that could be from the people I was hearing it from. But again, if you don't try something, you'll never know if it works. And you're someone that's saying that you've had a positive experience with it. So I think it's definitely something that if someone is out there looking for shipping options, even outside the country, you can definitely take advantage of Night Post. And then the second thing that you said that really stuck with me was that, so you, in your experience, you're saying that your products are non-essential. When you said
yeah,
that, that actually hit me right here, because I feel like fashion really, I mean, people have to wear clothes, yeah, but when you
yeah,
talk about the more creative side of fashion and the more, I guess, artisan side of fashion, the more luxurious side of fashion, when you really craft something, usually
yeah,
it's not really a need, it's a want, or
mm,
it's more for like appreciation, or something that people just desire to have or that they desire to be a part of. So I
yeah,
love that you brought up that point, that that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs in fashion might struggle to balance, especially with Nigerians. Like, people don't really want to always pay for the things that we're offering in this industry, and sometimes it can be challenging to
yeah,
find that balance. And to your point, saying that, well, Lagos people are different from Calabar people, I don't know if necessarily, I mean, it might be true, but maybe it's just because people are new to a brand. So they're like, I know if I'm new to something, I'll just buy the smallest item to try it out first. And then if I like it,
yeah,
I'll come back for the bigger ticket items. But so you went to Fashion Week in Lagos, you sold some items, you got to meet people. Did
yeah.
that experience change for for you how you looked at your business as far as like what you should be doing or the people that you should be targeting?
Yeah, so like I said, I always got like people always say that I am in the wrong place. So they'll be like, no, you need to come to Abuja, you need to come to Lagos. And like I said, I found that Lagos people are not any different. I don't know if it's because GT Fashion Weekend is very young in
Hmm.
terms of like the clientele that it attracts. So like Heineken Fashion Week, I think it is Heineken, right? That does fashion, Lagos Fashion Week
Yeah,
has
you.
more of an international audience, and they're you know, like it's a certain type of person that attends that fashion week as opposed to GT Fashion Week. It's lots of young influencers, you know, like the young fashion crowd, right? So
Mhm.
I found that there was literally no difference. Like they bought more, but they still bought the same as Calabar people. So going from that, I was just like, okay, well, there is no for me anyways, because the brand is also, I mean, unfortunately people say this a lot, but I don't think so. But I know that there's also Nigerian sensibilities. The brand is also, it does cater to a younger audience. Like it's not people in their 50s that are buying most of what I'm making on the brand,
Mhm.
right? So I know that my audience can't really afford a certain like, you know, like the more my skills upgrade, because it's me making most of the products, right? The more my skills upgrade, the more expensive things get, the less I become alienated from my original audience. And that's something I've had to contend with, right?
Mhm.
Because I really have moved away, as the brand has grown, I've really moved away from beaded work like chokers, simple necklaces, and now I'm doing more complex things. I'm making bags, I'm
Mhm.
like doing really complex crochet work and stuff like that. And so I've had to contend with the fact that this university crowd, this young crowd that I started with, I've had to sort of
Mhm.
leave them behind because they don't have access to disposable income in the same way. And
Right.
yeah, and the things they've just gotten more expensive because I am the main producer. My skills have upgraded, and so the prices are going up as well. So
Yeah.
it's
And
like it's something I've really struggled with, because I felt a bit sad about that, because unintentionally I created the brand around them. But it's also something I've had to realize that, well, if I am the only one, you know, if I am maturing as a person and I am the only producer, then of course it's just a natural consequence. There's nothing I can do
yeah.
about that. Yeah.
And I love that you said that you used some words that stuck with me. First, you said your original audience, right? So
Yeah.
when your business was in infancy, the same people it was catering to may not necessarily be the same people that it caters to as the business grows. And
Yes.
I think for a business, growth is only natural. Like it's the natural thing that, as your skills get more advanced, that your prices would increase or, that you would even change. Because my understanding is that you're no longer making chokers and the things that you initially started with. So I think it's okay for your target audience to evolve with your brand and for
Mm.
people to kind of circle around and change. Like where I shopped when I was 16 is not the same place I shop now. So like I think it would be strange for me if I tried to, as a consumer of fashion, if I stuck to the same brand from like childhood up until adulthood, my tastes evolve, my style will change. I'm sure I probably won't dress like this when I'm older. It just things come with as you grow and evolve. And I think that's natural for the business as well. So I'm happy that that's something that, you're realizing and kind of working along with.
Yeah. I love that you said where I shopped as a 16-year-old is not the same. So like, okay, so if you think about like these really young brands like Eclairs, right? Claire's does like earrings, really cute, fun things, and they sort of grow like the audience grows out of it, but they then cater to the new audience. So they're constantly
Exactly.
reinventing themselves. So whatever is in for the teenagers, right? So that's an example of a brand that like says with its original, like we are targeting these people, and that's X and the X. But yeah, so my brand can't really be that brand, because all the people who are in university, when the brands are out, they've graduated, they're done with university. So yeah,
Yeah.
naturally, yeah, the brand had to go. I really actually felt kind of sad about that because, like I said, we're sort of a university town, and I like the idea of always being like catering to the university crowd. But yeah, no, it's actually
Yeah.
not feasible, because you see what I told you about how I was charging 1,000 for those chokers, which was the wrong price, right? When
Mhm.
you don't price correctly, you build an audience, and then when you start to price correctly, You lose them because they were only there because of your price range. So it's, yeah. My advice, always,
Absolutely.
always price correctly. It doesn't matter what it looks like to you. Like if you're shocked, like you even if you even say to yourself, "Wow, even I wouldn't buy it for that price." No, because you're eventually the only way to scale up is to price properly. You can never really scale up if you're still in like this cheap, unless you're producing thousands and thousands and you're taking advantage of someone, aka like the fast fashion brands, like that kind of thing. You
Yeah.
have to,
Like
yeah, you have to price properly.
someone ends up having to pay that price, and it's
Yeah, someone
either
on the chain ends up having to, and I guess maybe because I actually adjusted my prices really quickly. I think within 2 years I was just like, no, I can't charge like this anymore because I am the one producing. And I promise you, after you have made 16 necklaces and you now see that, oh, you're paying yourself 200 naira, you have to really ask yourself questions. You just have to,
you have to have a meeting with yourself. Like, come
yeah,
on now. Yeah,
yeah,
I hear you. And you know the thing, since you like being in the with the university students, you don't always, I mean, this is completely up to you, but what came to my head when you said that was you can have some high ticket items and some low ticket items. Everything doesn't have to be like super expensive. You can have some things that cater to them just so that they get introduced to the brand, so that when they do
yeah,
graduate and have more disposable income, because they already know and trust you, they will be more inclined to purchase from you, right? Because they already had
yeah,
positive experiences with your brand. So that could be something to consider. But I was also going to say that, how do you mentioned pricing correctly? What
yeah.
information or resources do you have to help people price correctly? I don't think, but my understanding is, I don't know if it's a perfect science. I know there's some formulas like,
Mm.
your cost price plus how much profit you want to make should be your selling price. But in your experience, what resources, formula, or anything has helped you, price correctly?
Okay, so at some point I was on Etsy. I say at some point because my journey with Etsy is a whole other conversation. But at some point I was on Etsy, and when you start selling on Etsy, Etsy actually has this like really small formula that they recommend. They'll be like, oh, your cost, what is it? Your cost times, I think your cost times 4.4 is your selling
Wow.
price. Your cost times 2.2 is your lowest sale price. Like it's
Mhm.
something really basic. And of course, trust me, like I just followed it immediately. I was just like, yeah, okay, Etsy said I should sell like this. I'm not going to I've had to adjust it. I think last year I started looking into other formulas and they'll vary. There's no exact science, that's the truth, because in fact, I was watching a video and the person was like, actually, all these formulas are a guide, right? So
Mhm.
you get the ideal price from the guide, and then you now look at what your competitors are selling at the same, like you start. So you have to decide where your competing market is. I personally, because of the way the kinds of things we're doing, my competing market is usually global. I never really look at other Nigerian brands because lots of times other Nigerian brands are not doing exactly what I'm doing. And I'm also like, well, this brand needs to sustain. So, but you might also want to look at your other, like, say you're doing a beater bag and you've come up with a price. You now look at what other people in Nigeria are selling beater bags for. So it's really like, you can't even really say I must make so profit on this. Like you really have to gauge between the market and the formula. But Etsy had such a, like, it was just a simple formula, and I was just like, okay, I'm going to
You
follow
use
that
it.
formula. And
Yeah.
then other people have formulas where it's like you include things like rent,
Mm.
electrical bill, like, so they'll say something like your cost plus 15% of your cost is equals to, like things like that. So yeah, it's constantly switching, but yeah, for the longest time, for years and years and years, like for at
Mhm.
least 4 years, I just followed that.
Etsy formula.
Your cost times 4.4. Yeah,
Nice. That's really awesome, because
yeah.
I know for me, pricing is something that I really struggled with, and I think I shared somewhat on the platform too. That when I was in
Mhm.
college and this was my side hustle, and I would sew for people, I was so scared to ask them to actually pay me actual money that I would just chicken out and be like, it's free, and I would repair clothes and fix sleeves for people, and clothes
Yeah.
that their parents brought from Nigeria that were too tight or not stylish enough. I would fix it for them, but I wouldn't charge them because I was so afraid of like actually asking for money. But girl, all of that changed. All of
No,
that
you
has
have you
had to change
yeah,
now.
no, you know from your experience, but like you absolutely have to price correctly, and correctly is subjective. So even if you say, oh, that 4.4 seems high, I want my profit margin to be more like times three, you have to charge correctly from the get-go. Because I honestly, if you build a following off of incorrect pricing, as soon as you adjust your pricing, let's say you scaled up and so now you have an accountant and you have like, and you
You
have
have
maybe more
people to pay.
responsibilities,
Yeah.
exactly, as soon as you do that, you're going to lose a lot of your audience because they're used to it. So you have to set the standard from the beginning. And obviously, it's a common mistake. I made that mistake for more than a year plus. So, like, I'm not blaming anyone. Lots of people are going to make that mistake because also lots of times you don't value your work. Like, because you're just starting out, you don't know if anyone wants it. And really, the way I started the brand was a bit ridiculous. Like, a friend of mine saw the chokers and was like, oh, you should put them on Instagram. Right. So I had no plan. As opposed to someone else who is like, monitoring things, and they're like, oh, headscarves are really in. You already have done sort of market research, like in that you already have an idea, you already know a price range. I just went in blind. I was like, and then I think I must have asked a couple of her friends, oh, how much would you buy this one? Someone said no more than like, somebody said 200 to me, and I was so offended. I'm just like, if it's 200, how much do you think the beads cost? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely have to price right from the beginning, or as soon as you can pivot, because if you build an audience, the minute you need to upskill,
They just
nightmare,
leave because
nightmare.
they
And that's what happened to me. That really was my experience. As soon as I sort of gave a notice and was like, prices are increasing.
your
A
people are like, bye.
drastic decrease. Yeah, no, like, it's not even like, and it's funny, it's not like I lost followers. It's not like I lost interest, but like sales, just like, obviously, because things are more expensive now. And so, to be fair to them, to be fair to my original audience, they didn't like abandon me immediately, but it became a situation of, oh, now I have to save up to get this thing. I no longer just have 1,000 naira to buy this thing. I now need to be, oh, wow, I need to consider all the things before. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
so to the more like you mentioned something about someone saying something costing 200 naira would be how much they'd be willing to pay for it. What do you have to say about like when people maybe, and I think we've all experienced this, right? When someone
Mm.
speaks down at your business, or they see what you're doing and they're like, that will never work, or they, I don't know, when you share your dream and your passion with people, everyone doesn't respond positively. Some people don't have something nice to say, or they might just say something that hurts you. How do you personally, how do you deal with that in your experience?
I guess in the past, okay, first of all, that wasn't from someone I took seriously to begin with. So that was just a random person. I didn't know that person. It's a bit different when, I don't know, maybe it's your father that's telling you to your face, like, what is this nonsense? Like, so that is like a really drastic. But I personally have the ability to just push through things like that. I think the biggest lesson is to not be afraid of failure. I mean, it's one thing to say that when you have a degree to fall back on, or but really, and that's something I've had to learn. For the longest time on the Instagram page, I wouldn't say I. So like, if you go back through the posts on the Instagram, it reads as if there is a team of people behind this brand, because everything was we and our. I was very intentional about that, because I just did not want people to associate me with the brand, because I was just like, well, if it fails today, I don't want anyone to know that I failed.
You're like, see,
Yeah, you could never see my face. Like, it got so bad to the point that my friend, who was always modeling for me, everyone thought she ran the brand, because she was the only face you saw on that brand. I was just like, well, that's not. But now, when I say now, honestly, like, I sound so grown up when I say now. I literally mean this from this year. It is from this year I started saying I behind the brand, right?
yeah,
Because what last year taught me, like in 2020, there was the whole buy black movement, and Beyonce, supporting African brands. So everyone started to, so I started becoming aware of a lot of African brands. So it was like a really interesting time, because you saw all these African brands you didn't know about, and they were doing well. All of a sudden, they're getting international exposure and stuff like that. And then I also went through 2021 and realized a lot of things. I realized that lots of brands have more access to money than me. Lots of brands, just because Beyonce wore their thing doesn't mean they're not struggling. Lots of brands even get overwhelmed and have to shut down, right? We spoke about
mhm,
how, for instance, Kai Collective, the team got overwhelmed, and but they were doing really well, right? So it made me realize that, like, there is no such thing as an overnight success.
Mm-hmm.
There really is that's the biggest thing I've realized between 2020 and 2021 and now. There's no such thing and it's really made me comfortable with the fact that okay, I could fail. It doesn't mean that I am a failure. It just means the business didn't work out. And so when people tell me or someone says you're not going to sell this, there is this piece I just made, these ekpe pieces. They're really tiny masquerade pieces. They're really small bag charms. And a long time customer of mine asked me when I said the price, because they're 23K, and even that 23K, I will be honest, is not the actual price, right? When I did the calculation according to the formula, I was sweating. I was just like, I was like, nobody's going to buy this, right? So I then like reach a happy medium, right, of
Yeah.
23.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she asked how much it was, because she wanted to buy, this is a long time customer, by the way, and I was like 23, she kind of went, not 2,300. And that upset me.
Wow.
That really upset me because that's a long time customer, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it felt like a harder slap than the initial girl who I didn't really know, right? Because it's like someone who has seen value in your work is suddenly devaluing your work.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're suddenly saying, well, your work is not that much. But I pushed through it because I was just like, okay, so the way I do it is I don't do made to order. I make a certain amount, and when it sells out, I make more, right? So I was just like, okay, so I pushed myself. I tested my skills. I've created something I'm really proud of. I've made a certain number. If no one ever buys one, I start like after like maybe 3 years, not even one has sold. I start giving my family members and friends. That's literally how I do, because I'm just like, well, I tried. I learned a
Yeah.
new skill. I pushed myself. I designed something really cool. And
Mm-hmm.
the truth is, even if you don't sell anything, you will always get external validation. Like you say, you post something on Instagram, people are like, oh, this is so cool, even if they never buy. And I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, it shows you that your work is nice. What you have done is you've designed something really cool that people like. Just because people are not buying it doesn't actually mean that you yourself are a failure. It's lots of things. The economy right now is a joke. So
Yeah.
so that's how I like that's I mean it's very hard to push through in the moment. It's very hard, especially when you sat down for months and you've not sold anything. But really
Yeah.
I've had to get
Ooh.
comfortable with the fact that this entire business might fail, and that's okay. That's okay because
Yeah.
last month, sorry, I'm talking so much, but
No,
last
you
month
you're the guest, girl. You're here to talk.
last
Go
month
ahead.
I we turned 7, right? And I was just like, wow, it's been 7 years. What have I been doing for 7 years? So I decided to like go back to my first college. I literally decided to chronicle the entire thing and do an archive where I put all the pieces. Like, so if I did necklaces of a certain type, all those colors together in one picture. So if you go to the page now, you'll see like the entire archive of all the pieces I've done. It's
Which, by
crazy.
the way, what's your, well, we can, at the end of the show, we're gonna plug all your pages so that people can go and check you out.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Southern Panther on Instagram. But if you do go and check it, you'll see the entire archive. So, like for the last 2 weeks of March, I was just posting things from the archive, and it really made me reflect because Southern Panther is not like we're still struggling at 400 followers, by the way, and I've been doing this for 7 years. So it's not the biggest. Like this is not a brand that you can say, oh yes, they are like I don't know 16 point something K followers. Like so that you can quote unquote see the numbers in the followership, the growth in the followership, right?
Mhm.
But posting the archive and just putting honestly, I had to get like 3 hard drives out and go and search through laptops, and it is over 35 products that I have made majority by myself.
Wow.
And like just going through the archive and seeing how many colors, and I just remember how many times I had to restock. There are products that I restocked up to like 6 times over a course of like 2 years. It's crazy. I'm just like, I don't care if this business feels small. I have an entire portfolio.
Yeah.
Really,
You
really,
you
really,
learned
really.
you learned something. You learned
I
several
just saw,
things.
I learned so much. I just saw how much my skills have evolved. I only knew how to put string beads together. I'm sewing what? I'm sewing bags. Crazy. That's crazy to me. I have worked with an artist in Benin. Like we did like metal casting and we did brass pieces. That's crazy to me. I don't even understand. Like I make fans in collaboration with artists in Kano. How? If
Yes.
somebody told me from my so like I'm sorry, like you have to look back and honestly if something about that fails today, I have a portfolio and I know that I am capable of a lot. So like yeah, I look at your own work, look at your own growth, because sometimes you can't see it. All you think about, like with today, all you think about is numbers. You think, oh my god, my followership. But honestly, if someone was to audit Southern Panthers account, there's no way we've not, like, there's no way. Obviously, it's not all at once, but there's no way we've not made over ₦1 million. That's just the truth.
Mm.
It's been 7 years, right? But you don't process it because it's not happening all at once. You've not
Yeah.
suddenly been discovered by Beyonce and you've not gained 9,000 followers overnight. So you
Yeah.
don't process it the same way. So honestly, when someone tells you you're not going to do, it's fine. It's fine. I'm allowed to not do well. I'm actually, like, as a person, you're allowed to not do
Yeah.
well.
You're
You're
allowed
allowed
to
to fail.
fail. That's what
Yeah,
it
you're
means
allowed
to
to
be.
fail.
That's what it
Yeah.
means to be human. I love that you mentioned the fear of failure because story of my life. I feel, I feel like as Nigerians in general, we like our education system, our society, it feels like there's no room for failure. It feels like,
Mm,
you go from primary school, secondary school, uni, it's like everything has been, arranged for you that this is the order in which life is supposed to go. And
yeah.
you strive, you make sure like I now I think about my friends who had to repeat classes like in secondary school, and I'm like, wow, they got to taste failure early in life, so that
Yeah.
that fear of failure it kind of just disappears. Because I mean, now what's the worst that will happen now, right? So with my business that I started last year, with like I had bonnets and I had clothes and everything. That business, I
Mm.
still have bonnets sitting in my room, guys. From that business, bonnets that didn't sell. But you know what? I learned something from that business. And till today, people are still asking me for bonnets, right? But I took down the entire website because I just didn't want to keep paying money to,
Yeah.
sort of be sad that the business was still doing well when in actuality it wasn't. But if you still want a bonnet, let me know. I still have some, okay? But that
Exactly. Like, also, you deserve to have an inventory. Do you deserve to have an archive of stuff you actually mean? I actually, that's something I would not recommend. Don't ever sell every, like, okay, keep one. So like if you make bonnets, keep one. Like if you make in different colors, keep one of each. Like you want to have an archive. I mean, all fashion houses have archives, but you want to have a physical. I have, let me tell you something. I have seen things I have made and been shocked. Like,
wow, like
like,
you
because
look
years
back.
have passed. So maybe a
Mm,
friend will come with something and then they'll look at me like, you made this, and I have been shocked. Like, I have been personally shocked. Like, what? So you have to have, it helps you remember like where you've been and where you've come from. I think it's really
yeah.
important. Yeah.
And I love what you said about like kind of the illusion that social media presents and the
Yeah.
pressure that it really puts on people to like there was a term you used one time we were talking. You said brand envy. And I was like, there are different shades of envy now.
Yes.
Brand envy is one of them. When you go on another brand's page and you're just like, wow, they're doing so well and everything looks, emphasis on looks, everything looks like it's good,
Yeah.
everything looks like it's perfect. And in reality, like nothing is ever perfect. This is life, right? You don't know what's happening behind the scenes. You don't know like what people are really going through. Like
Yeah.
people are like human beings are going through a lot. We've been through a global pandemic. Black Lives Matter. We've seen a
Mm.
man murdered on camera. We've a global war is happening. Like there's just so much that's going on. So I
Yeah.
always am skeptical when I see um things on social media that just always look perfect because the reality is that it's not. And for anyone listening out there, don't let that get to you. I think I've said this on this platform several times. Unfollow, delete, like you can take breaks, you can love people and genuinely support them, but you don't have to continue feeding yourself this image and this idea of perfection if it's not working for you, your
Yeah.
mental health or your business. But I just wanted to add that to the
Oh
conversation
no,
too.
that's really good because that's something I definitely wanted to mention as well. If only I had done bullet points. But yes, I honestly have this, like, if I even, like, so if I see, let's say, the owner of a brand and they, or a brand, right, and I see that they're doing something, and my initial instinct is not, oh my god, that's so cool, or yeah, that looks nice, I'm happy, I unfollow. If I
Mm,
even have a slightly negative, because like it's not healthy in the long, you can lie to yourself that you are supporting that brand, but honestly, if every time they're doing well you don't like it, then you need to unfollow. Like, and I don't know, there's also like this strategy where people try to like just follow a lot of brands hoping that they will sort of also get their customer unfollow. If you're not, honestly, if you're only in someone's comment section, this is for me personally. If you're only in someone's comment section because you are thinking about what it can get you, like if you're only in the comment section thinking, oh, if I'm really active here, then maybe their customers will click, or if they reply to me, or if I repost this person, then maybe they'll repost me. Don't do it.
Yeah,
Don't
it
do it.
feels
It
like a
doesn't get
lot.
you anywhere in the long run. It's also very stressful to maintain. You know that kind of like it doesn't. I know it's a strategy that people use. It's a strategy that when Instagram was new to business and people they were, oh, this is how to grow your followership. Be in other people's comment sections and no, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And take it from
Yeah.
someone who has tried. It doesn't work.
And
Um,
honestly, I I am tired of the social media gurus and experts that are like post 3 times a day, engage,
no, I was
burn
really okay.
you out.
I have
It
a
burns you
resource for
out.
people. Shopify. It's weird. Shopify is like obviously for building websites. So I had tried to make a website for Southern Panther a while back, and then I realized I didn't have money to be paying that fee. But what happens is Shopify will give you like a 2 week free trial, and then you have to start paying from then. So obviously, I canceled the trial when I couldn't afford it, right? But they still email me. Shopify constantly emails me like posts about like they'll interview entrepreneurs. They constantly, so Shopify is a good resource. Like even if you just sign up for their newsletter, like they will email you stuff. But it's on Shopify. I saw they had emailed three different like people who it was something. The article was something like these are people who have failed multiple businesses and how they are doing now. Something like that. So it was just such a
Yes,
good article. I was like, okay, yes, I'm definitely reading this. And
that's
they're
what
just
I
talking
want
about
to see.
they're just talking about their failures, and things like that. And yeah, so I think Shopify is definitely a thing that I've read a lot of their articles. But yeah, one of them said something that really stuck with me. They were like, you can't honestly, if posting every day is not for you, don't do it. Like you have to find what works for you and your audience. Like if you're forcing yourself to post every day, you're going to fall off. That's the truth. You won't be able to maintain that. I'm not someone that posts every day. They said you have to find a middle ground between consistency and like you have to
Your
be
personality.
consistent. Yes,
Yeah.
you have to be consistent. So you don't want to post once every 4 months, like I have been known to do from time to time. But you also don't want to be posting every day if it's something you can't sustain.
And I think
So
social media isn't the only way to communicate with your audience. There's this really handy tool that people forget called email. You can send your audience email, and a lot of people read their emails, and that's a way to develop a relationship with your
mm,
audience as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be on social media. There are other platforms as well. It's just however you present yourself to people is how they will take you, right? So I think it's really important to mention that as well. And Amayo, you mentioned Shopify, you mentioned Etsy. Are there any
mm.
other resources that you can give to the people that have helped you, that are helpful for you, that you enjoy, learning from, listening to, apart from this podcast, of course?
Okay, on this podcast, yeah, I'm going every episode. I'm going to be sitting down like, yeah, when's the next one? I can't wait for you to have more guests. Anyways, I've already told you this off air. Like I'm obsessed. But okay, so yes, because it's okay. So I'm going to mention these things because they are things that I am learning to do myself now. And if you go to the Instagram page, I have not done any of them, but it's stuff I'm going to incorporate in the next month. Um, you might want to take advantage of like how you can connect a shop to your Instagram posts like Facebook. I had like personal misgivings about Facebook, even though Facebook owns Instagram, Facebook owns WhatsApp. So really, what are you saying, right? But you open a Facebook, you then create a catalog, and that catalog then links people so people can shop directly from your posts. You want to be able to do stuff like that. Obviously, if you have a Shopify website already, there are a couple of websites that you can already do shoppable posts. You want to do stuff like that. You also want to connect WhatsApp business if you can, because everyone's on WhatsApp. That's just the truth. You want to connect something like WhatsApp business or email. By the way, like I said, these are things I am yet to do, but there are things I'm going to start doing. You want to maybe, especially if you're in Nigeria, you want to maybe connect a Paystack
Mhm.
shop to your account, where if they click on the link they see your things and they can just so they can just process the payment so that you don't even have to communicate with anybody. They literally, it will just process all the payments on there. So you might want to set up a pay stack
Mhm.
as well. But those are the three things. Also, you might want to get on LinkedIn. That is something that has only occurred to me as early as yesterday. You know,
I
I have a
just
personal
started. I just started a LinkedIn for the
yeah.
South African
You
fashion.
might want to get on LinkedIn. I have a personal LinkedIn that's for my filmmaking stuff, but it did not occur to me all these years to do one for Southern Panther. Let me tell you why. You might want to get a LinkedIn because that is a way to maybe get your stuff into stores in places. So you follow people who buy for companies, like maybe someone who buys for what's one of these big brands that stocks like a like I'm thinking of a department store. But yes, buyers, right? So if you go to, and the thing about LinkedIn is you will not let you see full profiles unless you're signed up. So that is why you want to create an account, but you want to create an official page for your business on LinkedIn. Then
Mhm.
you'll be able to connect with people who buy merchandise and
Mhm.
products for bigger companies, and then you can email them. They can also access, so LinkedIn is actually, like, believe it, like, LinkedIn always seems like that weird professional social media. It really is social media also, because you're able to do so much more. You're able to post videos, and there's so much statuses. So it seems
Mhm.
really weird, like that thing that maybe only lawyers and I don't know whoever uses, but you might want to get on LinkedIn. That's definitely something I'm going to try and do now. But yeah, I think the first
Yeah.
person I heard about LinkedIn from, but it still did not process for me, was the woman who runs Anima Iris. She was saying
Mhm.
something about how, I'm always like in on LinkedIn, and I was just like, why is a brand on LinkedIn? But it's starting to make sense. So those are the four
Yeah.
things I think is four I
Okay.
mentioned.
Awesome. Connect your IG shop to your IG post. Make your post shoppable. Then
Yeah.
WhatsApp business. Use your
Mm.
email to communicate with your audience. Use Paystack, and also set up your LinkedIn. Those are the
Yeah.
resources
Yeah.
that Amayo has shared, and those will be in the show notes as well. And I was also going to add that if you want a transcript of this episode, that will be available in the show notes as well. So just click the link and you'll be able to download this entire episode and read through it and see all the amazing things that we have talked about. So another question I wanted to ask you is, for someone who is where you were 7 years ago, about to start a business in fashion in the African industry, what do you wish that you knew in the beginning that you know now that you would want them to know? That's a mouthful. It's a
This
mouthful.
is a
But like, what do you wish you knew in the beginning of starting your business that you know now, or that you
okay.
wish you knew earlier?
Um okay, I'm a very like hands-on person. There are people who start businesses and it's already very delegated, right? I Something I wish someone had told me, and someone had like maybe forced me to do, is to learn how to delegate. Like I said, I do everything. That's something that, if you're asking me where I would, if someone said a year from now, where do you want to be? I absolutely do not want to be making any of the pieces. Not
Hmm.
even one. Not even one. I literally want to design, see the final, see the tester product made, and then delegate. So something is to not be like, to let go of control, to delegate as much as you can, because like we're so blessed, like on this continent, or maybe even the planet in general. There's almost always someone who is doing what you need. Like if you need to make, I don't know, necklaces, there's someone who can do, like there's always a crafts person ready to do the work, right? And knowing Nigeria, they're not even going to be that expensive. Like, what I mean is you can still sell the product with a profit, right? So delegate as much as you can. I mean, obviously in the beginning you might not have money to work with, so you'll be making the stuff by yourself. If you're a tailor, or if you're someone that can sew, you might be sewing the bonnets yourself personally. But as soon as you can,
Yeah.
because you are, as an entrepreneur, right, you are not part of a business structure, right? You're going to be wearing way too many hats, or like you need to, like, if you are the one producing as well, I don't know, like, honestly, the most successful brands I've seen where it's just one person producing is a very different structure. It's a very,
Hmm.
very different structure. It's a structure where they're not producing a lot of products, so maybe it's like 5 products and there's a huge pre-order list because it's one person producing. So if that's the
Yeah.
structure you're going into, yes. But if you're really trying to be that business where you're doing lots of things, you're stocking in lots of places, no, you have to learn. You have to decide on building a team. You have to delegate, because
Yeah.
that's something that after 7 years, I'm only just transitioning out of. And I honestly, like, in the beginning, I used to say stuff like, "Oh, I don't want people to copy," because like I already knew that my things were getting more and more expensive, and I already knew that it wasn't a skill that everyone knew. So I was just like, I don't want the person that I train, because I would have to train. So I don't want the person I train to then go and sell the same things for less. And I'm just like, even now looking at myself, I'm just like, okay, okay, girl.
we
All right.
we live and we learn, you know.
Yeah. So that's like,
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing. And also I guess the something I'd say is, um have a very clear idea of why you're doing what you're doing, right?
Hmm.
even if you're just doing it to make money, have a very, because if you catch on, if you start getting a customer base, there are things you will start doing that you personally don't care for. And as soon as you don't care for the things you're doing, you will fall off. Like, let's say you run a, I don't know, a t-shirt brand, right? And all of a sudden people are asking for bandanas or something. I don't know, something that's not really something you ever want, and you start doing it, and then before you know it, you're only producing mainly bandana. And you're just like, I don't recognize this business. So
Yeah.
have a very clear idea of what it is you care about, because at the end of the day, when you're an entrepreneur, your style comes a lot into the identity of the brand,
Mm-hmm.
your personal style. So you don't want to one day not recognize your brand. That's something that happened to me at some point during Southern Panther. I realized that in the beginning I was always wearing my own stuff. But like for 2 years, I had not worn any. Like I couldn't even bring myself to wear it because I did not care for the designs, and I was just like, okay, well, I need to pull back here. I'm doing it. I'm doing too much because I was chasing trends, right? That's really what the problem was. So have a very clear idea of what you're doing, and see,
I
the trends
love
will come
it.
and go.
Yeah, I love two things that you mentioned. One, delegating, because I think, and this is, I'm gonna have another entire episode about this in season two, actually, where I talk about my experience, learning tailoring in Nigeria versus seeing how fashion and being a seamstress is done here. And one huge difference that I've seen is that in Nigeria, they teach you to be everything, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're the designer, you're the pattern maker, you're the actual, seamstress that's doing the sewing, you're the person that's putting the pieces together, you're the stylist. It's overwhelming. Like you can't you can't do
Yeah,
everything yourself. Meanwhile, what I've seen other people in different parts of the world do is that people pick one thing in the fashion, what you call it, ecosystem,
the
and
chain, right?
the
Yeah.
chain, and they
Mhm.
focus on that, and they get really 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 good at pattern making, to where you bring the most complicated style and they'll make the pattern for you. And I think that's something that, for African fashion entrepreneurs, for tailors especially, that we need to start tapping into. Pick one. If that's what you're going to specialize in, do that, and then for the rest of the chain, just delegate. And
Yeah.
I think it will work better. But something else that you mentioned, was knowing your actual purpose in the business. I think
Yeah.
that's so so important, because these days it feels like, let me just jump on the next trend so that I can get a few sales and be part of the trend and move on. And I think trends are inspiring, and they tell you, what people are wanting to see or what they like. But if it doesn't align with what your core purpose or your core vibe, I guess, is for the
Mm.
brand, then it may not make sense to like adopt. But if it aligns with your brand, then that's like, oh, perfect alignment. So I love that you brought that up as well, because you don't want to wake up one day. My biggest fear is that I'll wake up and I'll realize that I built, like, so growing up, you remember these movies that we'd watch about, like, they built a robot, but the robots ended up taking over the whole world, and they couldn't control, and
Yeah.
everybody's running to try and turn off the robots. And you don't
Yeah.
want your business. You don't want to build a business that you wake up one day and you're like, this isn't what I imagined that I was going to throw
Yeah.
out to the world. So, and I think another way to make sure that doesn't happen is regularly check in with yourself, check in with your business. Like, do you ever have meetings with yourself? Like, let's talk.
Yeah, like when I love that you said checking, because my way of checking in is I always I look at my past, what I did before. Like, so I'll go on to somewhere I wrote down my mission statement. Like, how when you're starting
Mhm.
something, let's say you're creating a website, when you go to the about page, you have to describe, if you just have a statement like that, you check in with that and you're just like, is it making sense? Or you check in with the stuff that you've been making and you're like, is it all making sense? Like, obviously a brand is allowed to evolve and everything, but sometimes you just realize that the things you're doing don't, like, Southern Panther, something I'm really passionate about is utilizing as many crafts people in Nigeria as possible. So like if there's someone that does like wood carving, like working with that person, a ceramist, my goal is actually to work with as many crafts people. But I have been handling like 98% of production for the service. So obviously so I'm just realizing something is not clicking. In my need to protect my quote unquote designs, I've actually not delegated anything. And that's
Mm.
something that I realized I can't, like, that's not what the kind of brand I wanted to run. Like, I wanted Southern Panther. When you go to Southern Panther, you just be like, oh my God, in Akwa Ibom, they do this and this brand did that with them. In, I don't know, in Benin, they do this and this brand did that with, like things like that. I don't want it to be like, yes, there's this one very talented girl, because then you're just the one person, right? But like I am like really passionate about like exposing craftsmanship. So I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
but if you're the one making all the things, it's all about you at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you know? And when I
Yeah.
said delegate earlier, something, even if you have no choice but to make all the things yourself, delegate your social media, delegate something. Like, I am struggling, right? I am not, like, I am on social media, honestly, I'm wearing too many hats, right? And that's something I really want to, if in fact, if there's anybody who
Yes. If you're looking for a position,
if
if you're good
anyone
at
is looking for a
managing.
position as a social media strategist, right, or like social media manager, please hit me up. Like, even if it takes me some months to get your salary together, because honestly, I'm doing too many things. I was working on my CV, and I realized that I am the photographer, I am the sales and customer service person, I am the social media strategist, I am the head designer, I am the creative director. What?
It's
No,
overwhelming. Yeah.
unacceptable. Like, back then, like maybe earlier on, when I started the business, I'd have been really proud. Like, oh my god, look at all this. No, I'm older now, and I'm like, no, that's a lot. That's ridiculous. Like, it
Mhm.
it,
It's
it
not
makes no sense.
sustainable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you will drop something from. There have been months and months where I've not posted on social media because guess what? It's a lot. Burnout. Like,
Yeah.
so delegate something. Delegate something, even if it is literally that you are not the one doing deliveries, because sometimes I am physically the one doing deliveries. I am the one carrying packages to post office.
Wow. Yeah.
So delegate something.
I love that you mentioned that. It's so, so, so important. Um,
Yeah.
so what's just a quick fun question as we are, rounding up. What's the
Hmm.
best purchase that you've done so far in 2022? Like something that you bought, doesn't have to be business related, that you're like, wow, this has been missing in my life.
um okay, it's actually really ridiculous, and it's not from 2022, because I'm just realizing now that I haven't gotten anything in 2022, but I got a pop socket for my phone last year.
Hey.
Game changing. It is, they must be like, I honestly, do you know how many times my phone has hit me in the face because I've been holding,
Oh,
like when you're in bed and you're holding up your phone and it falls, like it slips. I can't tell you how many I've dropped. Like, the amount of times I have dropped my phone since I got that pop socket has reduced by at least 98%. Like,
nice.
that is, like, it's so ridiculous how I stayed away with it. It's just one of those things that you knew people were having, but like you didn't process that. Just didn't process that it might be something you need, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I got last year, and I can never go back. I can never. I literally, if
It's
I
so
don't know how
helpful,
to
right?
hold a phone without it now. Like, I literally can never go back. Yeah,
And you can, watch, TV or whatever,
yeah.
wind it up and yeah,
No,
that's so
yeah.
helpful. Oh, I was gonna
That's such a cute question.
yeah, because for me, I think the best thing I bought this year, I bought like one of these heating pads that you plug in and it's like heat. So if your shoulder's hurting or your back's hurting,
Mm,
and trust me, I just after a long day, I just put on my shoulder and I'm just there watching TV. Game changing, y'all.
yeah.
So that has been helpful for me. But there was something you said earlier
Hmm.
about why you were a little bit skeptical about delegating for your business, as far as like no one need people to steal your idea.
Hmm.
I was also going to like add to that and say there are legal ways that you can protect yourself. There are contracts that people can sign, there are agreements. So for anyone listening that that might be your reason for hesitating as well, definitely make sure that you're protecting yourself legally. And that's something I want to do on this platform is bring a lawyer to come and break down
Mm,
information for us so that we know, because we do know that people steal other people's designs, which isn't very classy, but people still do,
yeah.
so I know that there's legal ways that you can protect yourself, and we can definitely tap into those and take advantage of those as well.
Yeah, also, let me just add to that. If you are doing something really basic like stringing beads together, right? And maybe it's the certain color combination or how, yeah, that is like, that's going to be harder. Like, because things like that are really common. Like, they're easy to do. Those skills are easy to learn. Like, as soon as someone knows what beads you're stringing together, it's really easy. So I would say don't feel too precious about things like that. But one way, without getting lawyers involved or contracts, that you can protect yourself is also not have the same people in all of the process. Like, you could literally have
Yeah.
someone who does parts of the process and then you do the finishing yourself. That's just one really easy way. That's what I've just been thinking about ways around it. So the process up into bits so that
Yeah.
not one person knows how to put it all together. I mean, there's you always run the risk of people. And also, I've also just come to terms with the fact that if I am training someone and sharing skills, then it's just a natural consequence, and maybe I should not be too precious about it's I mean, yeah, it's one thing if you're a customer, right? It's a different thing if you know that thing we've been seeing where someone will order one of your pieces and
Yeah.
then go and mass produce it, like it's been happening with small
Oh,
brands. Oh,
I
that thing
haven't
is
been
awful.
seeing that.
Oh, right, they're like bigger brands, like think of the big fashion, fast fashion brands. So, but there's some bigger brands run by. If you Google what I'm talking about,
Allegedly.
and some people are
Allegedly.
allegedly, right. And lawsuits have been brought against those people, but they will actually buy your pieces and
Hmm.
just deconstruct it, and then in a month they are selling your thing. Maybe a different color, but it's the exact. So like, there's also that. So honestly, it's wild in these streets. It really
Ooh, fashion
yeah, so
street.
like honestly, even if your maker sign a contract, your customer could genuinely be the person. Like someone could genuinely buy your product and copy it. So it's
Yeah.
really just one of those things that comes with the territory, and you can't let that stop you from getting the help you need. Basically, is what I'm saying. Like
Yeah. But
it
what
could be
comforts
anybody.
me is that people who copy will always be one step behind you. So
Honestly,
you have nothing to worry
your
about, right?
creativity has no limits. That's just the truth.
Yeah.
Like even if someone copies me, and like if I look back on my process, I have grown so much. Like my skills have upgraded so much, so I can never be like at this point I can never be terrified of someone. Like people who have to copy, they have a lot of work to do, man. They have to stay relevant. Like they don't have the
Yeah.
creativity, so they have to constantly copy. It can just be really painful when they then go on to sell it like cheaper than you and sell loads more than you. So I totally get the apprehension as a
Yeah.
person. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Ugh, this conversation has been so good, so enriching. Like I feel so great and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to, talk with you today. For the people who are looking to connect with you and your brand, where can we find you? Where can we follow you? Where can we, connect with you after the show?
Yeah, so what I did was because I'm trying to really refocus. It's our 7th year, and I was just like, Amayo is year 7, change something. So I've closed down all my social media. It's only Southern Panther's social media. So we're at Southern Panther on Instagram. We're at Southern Panther on TikTok as well. And I honestly have not figured out. So I'm still trying to figure out. I think I've only posted like 2 videos. I'm still trying to figure out what exactly we'll be doing content wise there. I said we, the brand, I will be doing content wise there. I need to stop doing that we thing. I will be doing on there. But yes,
You said
well,
you're going to
TikTok.
be hiring more people this year, right? So it is
Yeah, no,
we.
it's definitely something I'm trying to. But at the moment, since it is still an I, because I'm trying to get out of that habit. But yes, we are on TikTok at Southern Panther, and we are on Instagram at Southern Panther. Southern Panther is with 3 R's. So Panther 1, 2, 3, 3 R's at the end. Yeah.
And all of that information will also be in the show notes for everyone to access and go support Southern Panther, get to know them, see what they're about, order from them, and don't replicate their stuff, please.
Honestly, guys, please come check out the archive. If you're like, even if you're not interested in anything else, come check out the archive because I'm really proud of it. Like, yeah, that took me a lot to make, and that is really a representation of the brand's growth so far. So that's something I'm really proud of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we have come to the end
No,
of the
Aperture, it's always so nice talking to you. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Like, I know that you and I can go on for hours, so it's good that there's a
yes,
time
as we
limit.
have in the past. Yes, yes, absolutely. I love like your perspective. I love hearing from you, and I'm so happy that we're finally able to bring you on the show, to talk to everyone. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for being here. I so appreciate it. And let us know what you think about the episode. If there's anything that we discussed that you want to hop on and talk about, feel free to tweet using the hashtag Business of African Fashion. You can slide in our DMs, let us know, how you felt about the episode. If there's anything that resonated with you, like just give us your feedback. And on YouTube, feel free to add your comments in the comment section as well. And we will see you on the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye.